Okay, let's jump right in. You know that feeling, right? Trying to keep up, stay informed, maybe get ahead, but it feels like this constant wave of updates, new rules.
Absolutely. And wading through all the official stuff, the documents,
Yeah.
that can be pretty daunting.
Exactly. So what if there was like a shortcut? A way to grasp the important shifts happening, especially the ones hitting workplaces right now?
That's what we're aiming for today. We're diving into something called the Federal Register Modernization Act, FRMA for short.
FRMA. Okay. And the Federal Register itself, that's the government's daily diary of rules and notices?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the official publication for federal rules, proposed rules, executive orders, legal notices, all that jazz. Sounds dry, maybe,
A little, maybe.
but modernizing it, making it fully digital, easier to search, more streamlined, that actually has some, well, pretty significant ripple effects, especially for anyone involved in the world of work.
Right. So that's our mission for this deep dive. Cut through the official speak, pull out the key takeaways about the FRMA, make it clear, relevant, and definitely not overwhelming.
And we'll focus specifically on how this act is really changing how we understand and deal with all those workplace regulations.
Perfect. So let's start with the basics then. What exactly is this FRMA and why the big push to change things now?
Okay, so think of the FRMA as basically a legislative push to drag the whole federal rulemaking process, kicking and screaming sometimes, into the 21st century.
Huh. Okay, so getting rid of the paper mountains.
Essentially, yeah. Taking those traditionally paper-heavy systems and making them, well, truly accessible and efficient online.
And the main goals behind that.
It boils down to a few things. Better access for everybody, you, me, businesses, everyone.
Yeah.
Cutting down on duplication, unnecessary steps, and just generally making the whole process of how rules get published more transparent.
Okay, improving access, efficiency, transparency. Makes sense. But like you said, it might sound a bit bureaucratic. Why is this a big deal for someone focused on, say, the workplace employer-employee dynamics?
That's the key question. If you look beyond the surface, making all this regulatory information easier to get and getting it faster, well, the FRMA starts to have real strategic weight, especially if you look at it from, say, an HR perspective.
Ah, the HR lens. So it's more than just another regulation to follow.
Exactly. It stops being just another compliance task and starts influencing how businesses actually operate, how they think strategically.
Interesting. So how does that translate into tangible benefits? You mentioned HR.
Well, one immediate thing is getting clarity and speed on labor law changes. Think about things like the Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, or guidance from the EEOC or OSHA safety regulations.
All the big ones that constantly evolve.
Right. The FRMA is designed so you can access updates on those kinds of mandates much faster, more directly. No more waiting weeks for the official print version or digging through clunky government websites quite as much.
Okay, that speed definitely sounds like a win. So practically for an HR pro, does that mean they need to react faster?
It means they need to build quicker feedback loops
Yeah.
into how they review policies, update handbooks, communicate changes. When a new rule drops, HR needs to be able to understand it quickly and get their internal ducks in a row much sooner.
Right, faster updates, quicker internal adjustments. You also mentioned something about strategic compliance and linking it to the employer's brand or reputation. How does transparency fit in there?
That's a really important shift we're seeing. Being transparent about how you follow the rules, it's not just about avoiding fines anymore. It's becoming like a core piece of your company's identity, its reputation.
Okay.
When employers can clearly show, look, we're up to date, we understand these rules, and here's how we're applying them, it builds trust. Employees feel more secure. It signals a commitment to doing things right, ethically.
So it's not just ticking legal boxes, it's actually about building a better, more trust-based work culture.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And there's another layer too, because the Federal Register is moving towards machine-readable formats.
Meaning computers can process the information easily.
Exactly. That brings in this whole idea of data literacy for HR. Professionals will increasingly need the skills to, well, interpret and use this legal data more effectively.
Data literacy in HR. Okay, unpack that a bit. What does that look like in practice with the FRMA?
It means HR needs to start thinking about and maybe investing in what you could call regulatory intelligence.
Regulatory intelligence, okay.
Yeah, basically building the capability to understand, analyze, and even integrate this legal data into their existing HR systems, their analytics. It lets them be more proactive, spot trends, really understand the regulatory landscape they're operating in.
Wow. So it's a real shift from just reading the rules to actively analyzing the rule data. That's
Yeah.
quite a change. You mentioned earlier sort of framing this as moving from rule readers to rule translators. Can you expand on that contrast?
Yeah, I think that's a helpful way to picture it. Think about compliance. The old way, maybe pre-FRMA thinking, was
Yeah.
often about periodic checks, right? Let's review things quarterly or annually.
Standard audits, yeah.
The new approach, enabled by easier access, pushes towards continuous monitoring, staying plugged in, knowing about changes almost as they happen.
Okay, continuous versus periodic. Got it. What about policy development?
Traditionally, that was often reactive too. A new rule comes out, then scramble to update the company handbook.
Right, firefighting mode.
Exactly. Now, with better foresight, potentially, the shift is towards proactive scenario planning. Thinking ahead, what if this kind of regulation changes? How would we adapt our policies before it happens?
More strategic, less reactive, and communication. I bet that changes too.
Oh, absolutely. Communicating about rules used to be, well, let's be honest, often dense legal jargon that went over most employees' heads.
Guilty as charged, probably for many organizations.
The shift is towards strategic storytelling, explaining the why behind a rule change, what it means for people in plain language, making it relatable and understandable.
So, ditching the legalese for clarity makes sense. And the last piece you touched on was HR and IT integration.
Right. Used to be someone had to manually search government sites, maybe subscribe to alerts. Now, the potential is there for integrated systems, technology that automatically flags relevant regulatory changes for HR.
Like an early warning system built into their software.
Sort of, yeah. It saves huge amounts of time and crucially reduces the risk of missing something important.
Okay, so pulling it all together, the FRMA seems to be pushing for a much more dynamic, plugged in, and transparent way of handling workplace rules.
That's a good summary.
So for someone listening thinking, okay, I get the concepts, but what do I actually do now? Any practical steps to suggest?
Great question. Based on all this, I'd suggest a few concrete things. First, take a hard look at your current processes for updating policies. Really audit them.
How so?
Ask yourselves, are they actually real-time enough? Are they cross-functional? Does HR talk to legal, talk to operations? And are they consistently getting a legal sanity check?
Okay, step one, audit your policy update process. What's next?
Second, partner up with your legal team early and often. Don't wait until there's a fire to put out.
Makes sense. Build that bridge proactively.
Yeah, collaborate from the start to understand what changes mean and how to communicate them effectively. It prevents so many headaches down the line, especially for HR.
Good advice. Collaboration is key. And a third step.
Educate. Proactively educate your leaders, your managers, your employees. Don't just assume everyone gets it when a new rule lands.
How would you suggest doing that?
Keep it simple. Quick briefings, maybe short videos, maybe some e-learning modules. Just make sure people are aware of the key changes that actually affect them or their teams.
Right, so the 3 steps. Audit your processes, partner with legal early, and educate your people. Seems like a solid plan.
It provides a good starting point, definitely. And it's worth remembering, this FRMA thing, it's really more than just a technical tweak to how the government publishes stuff.
How do you mean?
It signals a bigger shift
Right.
towards transparency, towards digital access being central to that whole employer-employee relationship. And that's true whether you're in the US or interacting with US regulations from anywhere in the world.
That's a great point. And it feels like there's a real opportunity here for organizations, for leaders who lean into this, who understand these changes.
Absolutely. An opportunity to build workplaces that are more informed, definitely more ethical, and probably more successful because of it, across the board, globally.
So maybe a final thought to leave people with?
Yeah, something to chew on.
Yeah.
Think about this. How might this increased transparency in regulations, driven by things like the FRMA, fundamentally change how employees perceive their employers worldwide? And what kind of responsibilities does that easier access to legal information place on organizations everywhere when it comes to building trust, shaping culture, especially across different countries and legal systems?
That's a really big question. Definitely something worth thinking about long after this conversation ends.
Thank you, viewers, for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with your colleagues. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking that subscribe button below so you never miss out on valuable insights. I'm Brian Edmonds, signing off. See you in the next one.